right, it looks like it's counting us down for 2 minutes. Oh, now it's showing that we're live. Okay. All right, we'll give people just a few minutes to hop on.
Hello, world.
Hello, worlds. Riveting topics we're going to be talking about today. All right, everyone, welcome. I know that we just announced this morning that we're going to be doing this live, but I am excited to be here with Ian Richardson with Doberman Technologies and Will Lemanski with ML Insurance. And we have, it's Cybersecurity Month. There's a lot of things going on in October. We've got breast cancer awareness, cybersecurity. It's Financial Planning Month or some version of that. They just keep making up holidays, which is perfect. Fine with us, but cybersecurity, I think, is something that's extremely important. Obviously, as I think technology gets more and more advanced, it becomes more and more important. So, Ian, Will, I'll let you guys take a moment to kind of introduce yourselves and in your companies and a little bit of an overview before we get into it.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany, for having us on. Ian Richardson with Doberman Tech. We are a small business IT support partner. We focus and advocate around using the power of strategy and process to help our clients achieve their goals. I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking about cybersecurity. This has been a passion point of mine for 16 years.
Excellent. Thanks, Ian. Will.
Greetings, everybody. I'm Will Lemanski, Meiers Lombardini Lemanski Insurance, or ML Insurance. I'm an independent insurance agency, been in the business about 20 years, fourth generation insurance agent. We work with personal clients and business clients. And today we're going to be talking about, after Ian gets into talking about cybersecurity, we're going to talk about cyber insurance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Ian, you kind of, sorry. There, so I didn't know if you were done. But Ian, you kind of serve twofold for us. One of the biggest ways that you help us is to make sure that as a company, we are keeping our client data secure. I know that's something that you work closely with me on, but also closely with Kristen as our Chief Compliance Officer. Can you talk a little bit about how you serve FSG in that way and what that means for our clients?
Yeah. So without giving away information on the public internet that could be damaging, Doberman and FSG and Doberman and all of our clients go through a process called a risk assessment. And a risk assessment is where you look at every part of a business. So from the policies and procedures and processes, those standard operating procedures that make up how you do your day-to-day transactions, to each area of technology, so computers and printers and offices, to the cloud, to the suppliers and vendors that FSG partners with, to how we communicate with each other and with our clients, and whether that's via phone or email or carrier pigeon, whatever we're doing, we look at each piece and we say, okay, let's try to look at this from every angle. Let's look at this from the angle of FSG. Let's look at it looking out at our vendors and suppliers. Let's look at it looking out at our clients. And let's look at how data comes in from an initial prospect all the way through that client life cycle and servicing, and where does that data go, to try to find risks. And some risks are just like a little puddle. And you're walking down the road in a really nice pair of shoes, you can just step over the puddle. So it's a low impact, low probability risk, pretty easy to avoid.
Yeah.
Some risks might be a really, really, really deep hole with spikes at the bottom that you can step over carefully. So that's a kind of a high impact risk, but again, low probability, you can avoid it. And then there might be that huge pit with spikes that is impossible to get around. And those are those really critical, high impact, high probability risks, the really, really important stuff that we need to find a way to build a bridge across. We need to mitigate that risk so that we don't end up in the pit. And so by looking at every area of the business, by focusing on gaining that perspective and talking with Brittany and Kristen over at FSG, as well as with our key suppliers and vendors, we can see, hey, how deep does the rabbit hole go? How big is the risk? And then after that, it's just finding a way to solve it, whether that's through software or constant employee training or modifying the way we do business. There's a lot of different ways to skin this proverbial cat. So we take a holistic approach and look at the business as a whole, try to hit all those risks together, and then and classify them, and then just work the list. There's a principle in strategic planning, which is if you plan the work and work the plan will work.
Yeah.
So we go through and do that. We create a plan and then we work it over time. And every once in a while, on a periodic basis, we pull it back out and we say, hey, what must change? What's changed in the environment? Because cyber is one of those things that is constantly evolving. Month over month, year over year, the threats are always changing. And I'm really happy to say that FSG does a really good job at making that intentional investment of time and resource to ensure that we're on top of the game.
Yeah, it's a risky endeavor, and I think, and one of the things that you've really done a great job pointing out as we worked with you is the different layers of cybersecurity, because a lot of times we can step back and say, yeah, as a company, we are choosing vendors that are very, very secure. We're doing these things, but then as you take it down to the individual level, each person practicing systems and keeping your passwords secure, and all of those things, logging out when they need to log out in order to keep our company secure as well. And so there's so many different areas to look at and make sure. So we definitely appreciate having the comfort of you continuing to keep us up to date on that knowledge. And then, one of the things I want to make sure to do is provide a little bit of information for some of our clients who, this is a big, wide world of cybersecurity. There's new scams every single day. Even as somebody who's younger and uses technology every single day, I find myself almost getting tripped up sometimes. So what are some different tips that you think everybody needs to practice in order to make sure that they're safe and their information is safe?
Yeah, there's I feel like a book could be written on this topic, but there's a few that bubble up always to the top that are really, really worthwhile. And so these are things that an individual can do, or if you're tuning in and you run a business, you can do these too. And these are things that everyone can do today. One of the first easiest ones is stop thinking about passwords and start thinking about passphrases. A passphrase is exactly as it sounds. It's, instead of using the random characters and everything like that, figure out a phrase, maybe your favorite quotation or a passage from scripture or whatever you might be able to remember, and use that as a baseline. You can take that sentence, that series of words together, and use book capitalization, capitalizing the first letter, or even reverse book capitalization, capitalizing the last letter to serve that need to have an uppercase character throughout it. You can take a date string that's important to you. Maybe not your birthday, but maybe your anniversary, maybe your parents' birthday, maybe the date of the birthday of one of your kids, something like that. A date that has meaning to you, and throw it at one end of this phrase. And you can take some symbols that you might remember. So maybe take your street address and turn those into the symbols on the keyboard, or the street address of your office, or the last 4 digits of your childhood phone number. Something that you'll remember easily.
Right.
And then you've got uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols, which is a technological control. Websites can force you to have that. We've all experienced your password doesn't meet the requirements. Okay. So you've done something that's easy for you to remember because it's a quote, it's a date, and it's some symbols that you can use. And that passphrase, while easy for you to remember, is functionally impossible for an automated program to break. If you get above that 24 characters, which is a pretty average sentence, even above 16 characters long, the automated tools that a bad actor, a hacker, or a malicious party can use to guess your password, it would take 1 trillion years. So it becomes way future Ian's problem around that password.
Right.
So start using passphrases. Passphrases are a great free way to make a super easy to remember password to use, and it's very, very difficult to break.
Yeah.
The next thing is getting a password manager. Password manager is a website, an app on your phone, something like that that you can use to make it to use different passwords for each website. If you think about a hacker and they break into your local florist website, well, what's the damage that I can do there? Well, I can order myself some flowers, or I could order you some flowers. Somebody's going to have a really nice day. Functionally, not a lot of impact there, right? I've got control of your flower account. I'm coming for you. Except if I'm able to break into the database of that florist, I've got people's names, their addresses, maybe payment information, their emails, and all the passwords they use. And if you use the same password for that florist as you do for your bank, or for logging into your email, or logging into some key vendors as suppliers, maybe your electronic health record if you're a doctor, or your trading system if you're a financial advisor, or your insurance management system if you're an insurance broker, if you reuse those passwords across systems, suddenly I have your email, which I know works because it's your email and I can see your order history.
Right.
And I've got your password for the floral company. And even if you're using a small modification of it, there's software I can use to try to break in to the most common 500 websites over a period of days without triggering any sort of security alarm. So if you use a password manager, you can block that attempt because every website has a different password. And so I talked about passphrases. The passphrase is a great thing to use for securing your password manager. That's a really long, complex password that you'd have to know a lot about me to be able to break into. And then the password manager can just generate random gobbledygook strings for Amazon and Staples and ABC Company and Bank of America and whatever else I might use. Well, the password manager takes care of all the different passwords, and I just have to remember one to the password manager. This can really, really help out. And again, something that anyone can go set up. There's a lot of password managers out there that are free. You can feel free to reach out and contact me. I'm happy to give you some impressions on consumer and business ones for anyone who's watching out there. The third one, and this is a biggie, is set up for anything that is possible of using it. Anything that will let you use this, set up multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is when you log into like your bank or your email and your phone goes buzz, buzz, buzz. And you either have to type in one of those codes or you have to push a green button saying, hey, I accept, this is me, etc. You have to do something. Multi-factor authentication, Microsoft, which is probably the biggest security company on the planet when you think about how much data they have out there, Microsoft estimates that 99.9% of all successful hacks against their system, so every time someone's email got hacked on the Microsoft system across the world, could have been prevented by multi-factor.
Wow.
Now, there are no silver bullets in cybersecurity, but that one's pretty close.
Right.
So that is a huge impact thing that almost everyone will give away for free in some way, shape, or form. Now, corporations might have a need to centrally manage that. So as a small business, you might want to use a paid solution. But for the viewers at home, Google and Microsoft give away this technology for free for personal use.
Right.
So there's zero reason to not adopt it. Get your bank enrolled, get your email enrolled, get anywhere where you're putting your personal information enrolled if you can, so that you can try to start using that capability. Be aware of what's going on out there in the world. Like if you read the news, maybe subscribe to a couple of news feeds, but just be aware. There are some free resources that people can use. Looking at your credit report is a good idea to think about identity theft, taking advantage of those 3 free credit reports, one per credit bureau that all Americans are entitled to by law.
Right.
Well, getting your credit report once every 4 months and analyzing it and making sure that the open lines are accurate and there hasn't been weird credit pulls that you're not expecting, kind of taking a look on the identity management is a good free step we can all do. So just once every 4 months, you go to the next one and take a look.
Excellent.
That's a good plan. The last one is there's a free resource called Have I Been Pwned, PWNED. So Have I Been, PWNED.com. That's a free resource that you could type in your email into and see if your email's been exposed in any data breaches. Now, this is just one view and it's a snapshot at time. So even though I might not be there today, it doesn't mean that I'm not there tomorrow. But you could start seeing how often you might have been impacted by one or more data breaches by typing in your email address into there.
Interesting.
And they'll come back and give you that. And that's, again, just one snapshot that's done by a couple of cybersecurity focused individuals as a public service, as a give back to the community. That's a good place to look at. And if you see that you've been impacted by multiple breaches, and maybe you have 1 or 2 or 3 passwords that you use on multiple websites, and you've got an email address that you've had for 5, 10, 15 years, it might be time to start taking this a little bit more seriously. Those are 5 easy tips. The last thing that I'll leave us all with is if you head to Doberman.net and click on our blog, I routinely post cybersecurity advice, and there's no geek speak allowed at Doberman, so it's designed to be accessible. Pretty easy read, under 1,000 words. There's a couple of good resources over there for folks to take a look at, and that's my way of trying to give a little bit of information back too.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ian. Kind of what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that, it used to be the phishing schemes were big, right? Where hackers would email you and almost politely ask you for your information. And as we've gotten smarter with that, we need to now take it a step deeper and more proactively protect our passwords.
Absolutely. So social engineering is still and has been the most effective method of breaking into a secure network.
Right.
So if you think about when it comes down to picking locks, I used to do this on stage all the time. Someone who's got the right tools and pressure and time can pick a lock. It's way easier if you just give me the key for me to open your network. So be aware and cognizant that there are never any sort of financial emergencies, especially in business. If someone's saying, I need you to wire funds right now to this account, there is never a funding emergency. There's never a funding emergency in a business that can't wait for a 5-minute phone call. I'm going to be in a meeting for the rest of the day. I need you to do this right away. I'm creating urgency. It is the oldest sales tactic in the book. You got buy now or else this deal will be gone forever. But there's no way that someone's not going to say, hey, like we'll take it tomorrow. Just be cognizant and push back. If someone's sending you an invoice that's unexpected, if there's a weird attachment, if there's a weird call to action, to use the marketing term, be cognizant of that and push back. It's much better to give someone a quick phone call and for me to say, hey, Brittany, like I got this email. It looked a little weird. Did you send me an attachment? Is this legit? Yeah, no, sorry, I'm distracted. I shot it over. Okay, no problem. I'm going to open it and I'll get right on it. Nobody's going to be upset by that.
A good boss will appreciate it.
Oh.
Yeah, a good boss will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, so Ian covered a little bit of this is how you prevent it from happening. This is how we stay safe in this new world of technology. But as you mentioned, Ian, it's an ever-changing world, and a lot of us don't have time to continually read and what's going on. So try
and there is no guarantee.
Educated, but then Will's kind of gonna right. And so Will's kind of going to come in and talk a little bit about it does happen. Now how do we prepare for the what if and when? So I'll let you take it from there, Will.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I think when I think about cybersecurity, I think about homeowners with finished basements, and like Ian is the guy to help prevent it. So if you've got a finished basement, you got a nice wet bar down there, you got couches, furniture, everything, hardwood floors, whatever.
Right.
The best way to not have something happen is to not have it happen in the first place. So, you prevent it. You put in the sump pump, you put in the backups, you do all of that because you don't want something to happen. You can buy, it's just like with cyber liability coverage, you can buy all the coverage in the world, but you don't want it to happen anyway. One of the things I was in claims for 5 years and now out on the agency side for 15 years. And when I think of claims, nobody can pay for the amount of time that you spend in dealing with the problem. And what I can tell you from cyber liability claims, it takes a lot of time for the owners to, management and the company to deal with that problem. So aside from insurance coverage, paying for whatever the loss is, they can't pay for your amount of time that you're dealing with it, getting away from the business. But I'm just going to hit 3 things here because there's a lot of different types of businesses. I hear a lot of different things from people to say, oh, I don't store credit cards, so I don't need cyber liability coverage. But when I think of cyber liability, and there's a lot of different insuring, insuring nodules that they have, like 10 different things. There's a lot of different coverages, but 3 things. Number 1, that non-public data. So lawyer's office, financial planning office, insurance agencies, dentists, doctors, all that stuff. If somebody were to breach your data, well, there's also employee information as well. So if you don't store customer data, you're going to have employee data. What happens if they breach that? What are the rules in regards to letting everybody know that it's been breached and offering them identity theft service and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the one and the obvious stuff. Like doctors know they need this coverage. Lawyers know they need this coverage. But then it dives in. That's kind of the obvious one, right? Second is ransomware. And I have an example of a claim that we dealt with about 6 months ago on this. Not me, but a client. So somebody breaches your data, right? And they take all of your information. You have networks, you have email, you have employees that have stuff on their computer, whatever the case may be. Right. They take it all. You show up on Monday and stuff looks weird. And you're like, what's going on? What's going on? Oops, somebody ransomed our stuff. And they will get in touch with you at some point and say, look, we've got your data. You're going to owe us a certain dollar amount. The claim that we dealt with, I think they wanted $150,000. Okay. What the cyber carriers do is they come in and negotiate with them. And one funny story is, how they say, like, you can't negotiate with terrorists or you can't negotiate with criminals. In this world, they do, because the second those people don't give the data back after they're paid, everybody's going to stop doing it.
Right.
So it's crazy. It's like this whole different world that you're like, once you start hearing about it, you're like, how are the police or the FBI not doing more about this? But in this scenario, it was $150,000, and the cyber carrier came in, they negotiated it. I think it was like $100K they ended up paying. So you would think at that point, great, there's coverage, $100,000. Well, this is what they do with the data. Let's say you got 15 employees, right? Everybody's got stuff set up. You got file folders, every desktop icons, everything's going to certain places. When they give you your data back, they don't give it back to you in this nice little organized box. They just go, boom, here's your stuff. Well, it takes a long time to clean that up. So when I think of ransomware claims, I think of not only the cost of getting your stuff back, but the time and resources it's going to take to get everything back organized. Okay. Third is third-party liability. So the scenario that probably every insurance agent has explained is everybody knows about the Target breach. How was it happened years ago, and customer data taken? How was that done? Did somebody breach Target? Nope. They went in through an HVAC contractor who's working at Target. So that HVAC contractor, first of all, probably couldn't have purchased as much insurance in the world to pay for that loss. But let's say you are a contractor. Let's say you are a random company that doesn't have those big cyber risks like a dentist would. Let's say somebody breaches your data, okay? Let's say you don't know about it. Let's say now a dentist office is breached. Well, what those cyber carriers do is they go in, they do forensics, they figure out how it happened, how they need to respond, et cetera, et cetera. And let's say at the end of the time, they pay $200,000, right? Either from data being stolen and responding to that, ransomware, whatever the case may be. Let's say they pay $200,000. Insurance carriers don't just pay out money and say, oh, shucks, we're out. They start looking for negligent parties. So they say, we paid out $200K. Why do we pay it out? Did somebody did an employee just kind of mess up and, okay, there's no way to recoup that? Or was somebody else negligent that we can go after? And if, let's say somebody breaches our data and then I shoot an email to Brittany and Brittany's data is now breached, Brittany's cyber liability carrier is going to pay. They're going to find out through forensics that, oh, Will at ML&L sent something. It's Will's fault. Well, they're not just going to eat that $200K. They're going to come after me and say, you owe us $200,000. So my cyber carrier, we do have one. My cyber carrier would review that, and if we were negligent, they'd defend me. And maybe I wasn't negligent. Maybe they'd fight that. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they said, Will really messed up. Here's your $200,000. So that's the thing. I think the third party is really what's, I think a lot of the businesses out there need to worry about as well, aside from the whole, prevention and ransomware and things like that. So those are kind of the three things. Another little just real tidbit of advice that I get from time to time, this is more on like the personal end. So just, somebody has a home and auto policy or something like that. And a lot of insurance carriers do give like identity theft on the home, like kind of sometimes as an add-on coverage. Maybe they'll give $10,000 or $15,000. And not to say that that's not bad. If that's a concern, that's perfectly fine. What they generally don't do though is monitor things. Okay, so it's not, I'm not here to endorse anyone online, but if you're concerned about that on a personal end, talk to Ian to find out which one's the best. But there's a lot of credit monitoring programs that can protect you personally. The products on home insurance usually don't set up the credit monitoring, or at least they don't yet. They're paying for stuff after the fact. So, hey, somebody stole my name and bought a house down in Florida. I got to pay an attorney to fix it, right? Right. They'll pay for stuff like that, but they're not monitoring the fact that my data or my social security was stolen to buy a house in Florida. So right. Just a couple tidbits and info on cyber.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And, one thing that I will say is that we use both Doberman and ML&L. We use Will for our cybersecurity insurance. And both of these guys, when I've asked them about different things, have said, no, you don't need that. Or yes, you do. And this is why. And so if you have a question of whether there's something that, if there's a need that you have, or if it's something that you need personally or your business needs, reach out to these guys. If you don't need it, they're going to tell you. But when it comes to the cyber world, especially, the less you understand, the more protection I think you probably need. So reach out to these guys. I think Allie's on the back end of this live, and she's going to go ahead and put all their info in the comments so that you can easily reach out and access them. But guys, I just thank you so much. This is a huge topic, and I know that we only were able to devote 30 minutes or so to it. And it dives much deeper. But I know that personally, as a business owner and someone who leads a fairly good-sized staff of 23 people, that I feel a lot safer knowing that we both have preventative and protection when it does happen. So thank you for doing the live, but also thank you for making sure that FSG is as secure as we can be from moment to moment. We really appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you, Brittany. It's great to be on here with you and Will. Really appreciate the opportunity. Stay safe out there,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Have a great Monday. Yes.